Hey everybody, welcome or welcome back. My name is Monique. Welcome to Medora Budgets. I like to thank anybody who's liked or commented on any of my videos, especially those that have chosen to subscribe to my channel. That wasn't the word. The word is subscribe. That's the word. Subscribe to my channel. I truly started this as a way to hold myself accountable, but I understand, recognize, and appreciate the community as a whole. If you are rocking with me on this journey, thank you, thank you, thank you. If you haven't made up your mind yet, sit with me for a spell. At the end of this video, if it's content you find valuable or enjoyable, please feel free to subscribe. It's myself and Sweets, married with a whole bunch of kids, trying to figure out our future, family, and finances so the decisions we're making now won't negatively impact us in the future. Today is Tuesday, the 9th. I don't know if you're going to see this video on Tuesday or if I'm going to hold it until tomorrow for Wednesday. I'm not sure, but I am here to do a paycheck budget closeout for the last check that I received in August. So let's get it. Let's go. So I am currently in a Moterm Traveler's Notebook, and I use one of those Traveler's Notebooks for my budget. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this out of the planner, and then we're good. Y'all, I do want to say, I'm just going to scoot you in a little bit. I'm just going to tell you this right here. Sunday service was the bomb. I think he preached it for Suicide Prevention Month, which is a month of September. And he preached about the damaged disciple and about Judas and how he had killed himself. And it was very eye-opening. And so, you know, one of the things that we walked away with from that is that you have to listen when people are sharing signs. Those signs don't look the same for all. So you need to look for clues. And sometimes you just need to help somebody. So anyway, for Suicide Prevention Month, I thought it was very appropriate. So just mentioned it just now. All right, so we will go ahead and get started with the budget. I am going to move that over to the side. Let me get my pen out. I use this blue ink pen, the Flowtune 0.5 that I got in the last Cloth and Paper subscription box as my pen of choice. And we are going to, I wonder if this is going to lay open flat. We shall see. All right, so what has been going on, everybody? I'm going to go ahead and mark off. No, I'm not. This is BB that I use for my budget as far as my monthly overview is concerned. And we did have Lawn Love. Yep, you know what? I think I am. So give me a second. It's my blue marker. It's over here on the side. Yeah, there you go. There you go. All right, so Lawn Love did come through and cut my lawn, but the guy that was supposed to come and cut my lawn did not show up. So I actually went on Nextdoor, believe it or not, and I searched using Lawn Love or using lawn service or cutting grass as the search, and I had a lot of stuff that popped up for a lot of different folks, but one company name, ECE Hauling, kept popping up over and over and over again. It's a lady, and it didn't matter. It was a variety of folks, but they all said the same things. Very professional, did a great job, was willing to work with you, yada, yada, yada. So we were able to get her scheduled for, she was supposed to come on the 7th, but she ended up coming on Monday because it rained on Saturday. She called and said, hey, I can still come on. She called on Saturday evening and said, hey, I can still come on Sunday if you want me to. My recommendation is wait till Monday. That gives it a chance, the grass a chance to dry out because it's going to be kind of clumpy. And at that point, we were sold, you know, somebody who calls and really gives you a professional opinion, but still lets you make the last decision or the final decision on that. So she came here instead. I am documenting that down though, as I'm thinking about it, because she charged a little bit more for the first time out because my grass has been 6 weeks since it got cut. So she charged $85 initially, and then going forward it'll be $70, and she will come whenever we want her to. So I asked her if she could come every 3 weeks instead of every 2 weeks, and she said yes, but it's $70 after that. So I'm just writing that in. Also in September, I found out a couple of different things. So number one, we talked about the car insurance, and that I was going to see an increase. So per paycheck, I'm looking at about a $65 to $70, and I'm going to say $70 per check increase in my insurance. Now that we've added Corinne's car to it, and that amount is automatically deducted from my paycheck before I even receive it. The car insurance is. And then I did get a notice from Nelnet. So before I was paying previously my Nelnet debt, that's my student loan, I was paying $82. And it's on a graduated payment schedule. They just had never graduated it, but they decided to graduate it now. And so now it will be $107 a month. So where I was going to plan, I planned on putting extra debt payments towards Green Sky. It looks like I'm going to need to refunnel that money towards Nelnet, and I am going to need to pay Nelnet any extra. I'm going to have to pay them the amount that I was going to pay as extra debt towards Green Sky to cover just the minimum cost. But with that said, I'm looking at my budget to see if I can increase this up to $110 or even $120 to see if that extra will help to pay that down faster. So it looks like I'll be changing my plan around that and tackling more so the Nelnet versus the Green Sky. All right, let's get to the budget. So we are here to do Lord, where am I? Here we go. We are here to do a paycheck budget closeout for the paycheck that I received on August the 22nd, and it went through September the 4th. Now, I am keeping track in 3 different categories or columns. Not for the inflow, but for the outflow. I'm keeping track of the budgeted amount, what I decided to do in the budget with me, videos that you would see, the allocated amount, what I actually put into YNAB, or what I actually decided to do once I actually got my check in the allocated amount, and then how much I spent as well is going to be documented here also, okay? So the first thing I had to do was go over here to, because I already did a expense tracking for the first week of that paycheck cycle, 822 to 829, and we talked about these numbers and added everything up. Then I had to go in and do it for week number 2. So week number 2 would be 830 through 94. Here are all of the expenses, as well as any money that I brought in or funneled in as well. All of those are listed here. So when that money, if I brought some money into the budget, I went ahead and documented it here and highlighted it in green so that I would remember to add it to the inflow under the actual section when I got ready to do my budget closeout. Down here, the $6,400 that you see here was the money that Corinne brought in from her savings in order for her to purchase the car that she got. And I've talked about this before. My dad left a great inheritance for them, and she was able to pull from that. First time that she's had to pull any money from it, but she's able to pull some money from it in order to purchase her car. So we brought that into the budget, and then I'll show the car purchase as something showing going out of the budget as well. And then Lowe's, we did have $97.58 that was spent there, and that was repotting 2 plants that I had. I need to buy bigger pots. I have 2 peace lilies, the only plants that I've ever been able to make live, and I got those from at the time when my dad passed away. At the funeral service, my high school alumni association and the college alumni association both sent peace lilies, and those are the ones that I have. So I needed to repot those, but I have been saving for that. And we took $97.58 from that sinking fund. Also, Sweets Property in South Carolina has a ring service, and we pay that one yearly of $99. We have a sinking fund for that. So I did bring that $99 into the budget as well. So that $99 and this $97.58 is how we came up with this $196.58 that we were bringing into the budget. And then here we brought in another $160. Now this was money that was in a sinking fund that I have for Corinne, but now that she's out of high school, we don't have those types of expenses anymore. She's working, she's going to school, and she's just handling her business. I didn't need to necessarily have a fund for her. So I channeled that money over into my alumni sinking fund and pulled from that to help offset the cost of this Etsy purchase. And it's in preparation for the sneaker ball that we're going to have this year as a part of our 35th high school reunion. I need to buy some blinged out sneakers. And so that is what that is. And so again, I'm showing the expense, and I realize I need to show when I'm bringing money into our, into the budget from sinking funds. And then I went in and I tallied up everything over here. And so I'll come in just a tad bit here. Gas total spent for this week only was $33.38. Food was $141.18. Over the counter meds was $24.91. Corinne, and she just has her own separate category, is this $63.19.23. The planners, the ring for South Carolina. Personal, I spent $180.34, and home $15. I didn't have a lot of expenses, but I did have a few of them that were pretty big. Now, why is this important and for us to have all of these categories? That's because for the budget itself, I am bringing in all of those allocated amounts over here. So if I brought in under sinking fund, I'm documenting all of the different times I transferred money from sinking funds over into the account to cover costs. Under other, I'm transferring or I'm documenting all of the times these were extra deposits coming into the account that I was spending money from. And also, remember, as I mentioned earlier, I'm keeping track of budget allocated and spent. I'm also over here tracking anytime I spend money from these particular savings buckets as well over here. So I'm hoping that this will help make things a lot better when I get ready to do my next budget with me, because I'm now accounting for all of my rollover. I'm accounting for all of the money that's coming in from sinking funds. I'm accounting all of the extra deposits, etc. So let's see what we are working with now. All right, so $9,461.60, and you'll see that there, $9,461.06. That accounts for all of the money that I brought in during this 2-week cycle. So that's the $1,600 I got paid in my bills account, $816 that I got paid in variable. That is a plus for me by a couple of dollars. This is the $36.33 from the sinking fund for the for planner, $26 of extra income that came in. That was over here, the $10 from Upside, and the $16.15 that they paid me to get those straws that time. And then the $196 we just talked about, the $160 we just talked about. Sweets gave me $200 total, $100 every week. And we also have the $6,400 from Corinne for the vehicle. Now I need to add in my rollover amounts. So I had $1,034.89 in my bills account, and I had $127.48 in my variable account. And so that equals that I'm working with for this paycheck cycle $10,623.43. What I budgeted here is for what I budgeted for in YNAB for any of my bills that I have or any of my debt. And then over here, the allocated amounts, what I actually did in that YNAB video that you all would have seen, is listed here. And I just put a dot by those ones that changed. Not a lot changed. Lawn Love went up to $75 instead of $60. I allocated more. I knew I was going to have to get somebody else. I just didn't know what that price was going to be, so I gave a little extra there. Water, I gave a little extra there. Instead of $20, it was $23. For my phone, I wasn't going to give anything at all. I didn't budget anything at all, but we did put in $29 there. And I think those were the only three that were different. As far as what I spent during this 2-week cycle, $150 for yeah, $150 for giving. I spent $8.99, and that would have been for maintenance subs. That would have been, what was maintenance? That would have been the iPhone. The iPhone insurance would have been that. $16.99 for Spotify, $2.99 for Disney, and Fubo is back in the mix, so $99.97 for that were all amounts that were spent under the media category. $23.97 for Tidal Wave. I spent $57, so they did take out the amount for the garbage, so that's gone. The phones are paid for the 2 lines, so that was $50. I spent $118.77 for my gas. I spent $9.99 for the ring in Georgia. Don't want to confuse that with the yearly one we have for South Carolina. And then $51.16 for AHS. That is higher, so I've got a plan for a little bit more money going into that category. $8.60 for my mortgage and $124 for electric. And that's all that was spent out of these categories. So let's add up and see where we were. The budgeted amount was $15.71. Let's see what we allocated. All right, so we allocated $1,618. And then how much did we spend? And again, the reason why I'm keeping track of spend is because that's going to help me with what my rollover amounts should be so that my numbers can be a little bit more accurate. All right, there you go. I spent $1,573.83 is how much I actually spent there. All right, let's go over to the variables. So there's a lot going on over here. Let's talk about it. I budgeted $300 and allocated $300 for food. Budgeted $50 but gave $60 for gas. Budgeted $30 but gave myself $40 instead for home. Budgeted $30 but gave myself $40 for OTC. Budgeted $40 but gave myself $50 for personal. For miscellaneous, that's going to be the APCU. So that's where Sweets is giving me this money, what I'm actually doing with it. So for APCU, I spent $75. I put $50 into our joint account, $25 into Bean's savings, and I left the other part in the bank. APCU, the second week 2, I put $50 in the joint account, left the rest of it in the bank. For my Chase install, this is now done. I allocated $32. Because that's how much I budgeted, and I actually spent $32, and that was it. It was a 4 installment payment thing, and it's done. And then US Bank, I did allocate $25. I didn't budget anything. I allocated $25, thinking if Sweets gave me the money, I'd be able to pay some money on it. I actually put $50 towards that instead, so that's why I have those over here in the spent amount. Now I need to figure out what I spent on food, gas, home, OTC, and personal, and that's going to be back here. I spent $343.05. $343.05. All right, good. Gas. So I spent $69.99. There we go. Home, $55.29. And this is going to tell the tale. I can tell it already. All right, OTC, nothing week 1. And week 2, $24.91. Okay. Personal. So that was $196.68. Okay. Miscellaneous. I've already captured here that I spent $75 and $50. So I know I spent $125 miscellaneous. And let's see what else I got. $16.15 for those straws, those doggone straws. $16.15, and I don't have anything else for miscellaneous, so it was an additional $16.15 over here. So I'm gonna do both of these together. So $125 plus $16.15 equals $141.15. All right. I got the $32 for Chase Install. I got the $50 for US Bank. And then I need to put Corinne's car, 631923. 631923 over here. And I'll say Corey car was another variable in the mix. And the rest of these I'm going to capture as a part of the sinking funds information. All right, so we're good on those. So let's add all of those together. So what is my total spent? So I budgeted $482. I allocated $547. And then what did I actually spend? Ooh, doggy. All right, so I'm going to start here first because these were the ones without Corinne in there, and then I'll add Corinne in later. I spent $913.07. Now, y'all don't freak out. Remember, my rollover for my variable over here, I had in that variable account an extra $127.48. So that's going to impact here. I spent more than I allocated, but I did have rollover that I'm pulling from for that. Plus, some of these miscellaneous stuff, etc. I did have sinking funds that I brought into the mix for that. All right, so savings. Oh, total. And now I need to add plus 631923 for Corinne. $7,232.30. 7, 2, 3, 2, 30. Okay. All right. Next for savings. Savings, I budgeted. Here are the budgeted amounts. $100. Well, I don't have to go over them. But the total was $328. This is what I actually gave. 304. So it was 304. It was a little bit less. 304. And then what did I actually spend? $418.91. $418.91 was the total amount that was spent. Now you might say, okay, how are we going to add up all of these totals at the end? That's where we're getting to now. So I am going to use this full amount because it includes all rollover. And then I am going to use what? I am going to say what I actually spent out of the account, because anything allocated that wasn't spent will be a part of rollover for the next budgeting cycle. Bam! That's what it is. I have to make sure I have my brain together. All right, so my total inflow, $10,623.43. All right, my outflow, I spent $1,573.83 from, that's an ugly 8, 83 cents from all of my bills together. For variable, I spent $7,232.30. And for savings, I spent $418.91. So pen is given out. 10,623.43 minus 1,573.83 minus 7,232.30 minus 418.91 equals $1,398.39. And then I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. My pen is giving out. Let's find another pen. $1,398.39. Now, so I had rollover was $1,302.43 in both of my accounts together is what I budgeted. No, it was this. What my actual was for 9/5 was $1,112.43 plus $190. Is that close? 1112 43 plus 190 equals $1,302.43. And here I was $1,398.39. So I'm off a little bit. I'm close. So I'm going to tweak it. I'm not going to stress myself about here. I'm going to tweak it because this is the amount of the actuals as far as what was available in rollover when I got my check on 9/5. So I may be kind of close. I may be close. So I'm not too far off. I'm going to let it go. All right. I'm going to call that a C. I did a C when it came to this. Okay. Very long video, but I needed to walk through this again. This is trying to account for every single dollar, and we'll just see how this works out. Okay. Thanks everybody for your time. You guys have a good one.